There was a night in 2020 where none of this felt complicated at all. Ohio State played Clemson, a team with an elite defensive line, the same kind of opponent that had beaten Ryan Day the year before. Instead of slowing down, instead of searching for the perfect play, they played fast. Ohio State played with tempo. They weren't careful, they weren't hesitant. They imposed themselves, and they dominated. That game didn't feel reckless. It felt free. The most frustrating part about Ryan Day isn't the question of if he belongs or not. It's the feeling of being so close but not being able to figure it out. There's never been a debate really about his ability. That's what makes the moments of doubt feel a lot louder than they probably should be. And there's never been an external debate about whether he belongs at this level or not. But that hasn't stopped a quieter internal one from forming. Not about competence, but about control. It starts to feel like a coach at war with himself. Because the losses don't just happen, they repeat. They carry the same shape, and that's where the confusion sets in with Ryan Day. How does someone this intelligent keep losing in ways that feel so similar? Because these losses don't feel accidental, they feel like moments where instincts and restraint collide. This is the paradox of Ryan Day. The knowledge is there, the preparation is there, but the moments that define him keep narrowing, and when they arrive, everything feels tighter than it should. Not chaotic, not reckless, just constrained. The Cotton Bowl loss to Miami is where it all crystallized once again. Not just the loss, but the reaction that followed. It felt like having the perfect map. Ryan Day told us he had the perfect map and still died in the desert. At some point, intelligence can stop being an advantage. It can become a weight. It can become a curse. Not arrogance, but a growing trust in your own read of the moment, whether it's right or wrong. That kind of confidence doesn't always invite correction, especially when you've been right more often than not. And even when you're wrong, it does not result in losses. Ryan Day told the world that Brian Hartline called the plays in the Indiana loss. He assured everybody that would not be the case against Miami. That this time, he would take the sticks back and he would be the one calling it. And this is where we start to see the contradiction in Ryan Day and the war with himself start to show. Because the need to be perfect can quietly pull you further from the goal. Every call treated like it has to be the right one. And in doing that, the pace slows. Even when you've promised us it would speed up. Somewhere in that process, confidence starts leaking away from the field. That kind of control doesn't calm a team. It tightens it. Decisions take longer. Reads feel heavier. And the offense stops playing forward. Stops playing aggressive. That is precisely why these losses don't feel random. They feel familiar, even before the end of the first quarter. Because of the pace, the Ohio State offense only had 3 second-half drives, 3 chances to change the game. Not because the defense failed, but because time disappeared. Every possession became do or die, not by design, but by default. That's what happens when you play game control while trailing, even though you are the brilliant offensive mind. It doesn't buy you clarity. It instead removes your margin for error, and eventually, it'll close the door. And that's why the frustration never really fades, because it isn't rooted in doubt. It's rooted in knowing how close Ryan Day is. College football is really strange. Winning a national championship can feel intoxicating, but it isn't always as fulfilling as people expect. And for Ryan Day last year, that was especially true, given the loss to Michigan. Ryan Day did lift the trophy a year ago in a run that ended by cutting through a playoff gauntlet in the inaugural year of the 12-team format. And yet, something about it didn't close the book. From the outside, it looked like validation. From the inside, it may have convinced him something that worked against him this year. He trusted the blueprint. He obsessed over it. Control games early, survive the middle, press the gas late. The problem wasn't the idea. It was taking it to the extreme. It was that the plan became an absolute. Well, it worked because something he leaned on. The red flags didn't disappear. They just stopped changing the plan. Somewhere along the way, the artist faded, replaced by execution. The version of Ryan Day that earned this job wasn't mechanical, it was creative. And here's the part that gets lost. The best runs under him don't happen because everything is perfect. They happen when someone pushes back, when the quarterback rebels against the version of control that wants every answer. The best performances come when the quarterbacks are willing to press the button marked "Do Not Touch." The internal war that goes on with Ryan Day finds its way to the team, and nowhere is that internal war louder than at quarterback. In a Ryan Day program, the version of Ryan that wins during the week is the controlled version, the one that values structure, preparation, risk management. That's the version that ultimately picks the quarterback. But we've seen it play out. When the chaos side tries to surface, the controlled version wins, because during the week, control feels responsible. And yet, the description of the next quarterback remains the same. Don't make mistakes.
We don't need an extraordinary stuff. We need people to take care of the football, and lead the offense. We've got to take care of the ball, and that's not just easy to see. A lot easier to say, well, take care of the football. Certainly, taking care of the football and making routine plays routinely is important.
Except for the one time the chaotic version came out and said he needed a quarterback that could do the things that C.J. Stroud did in the Georgia game, which was the ultimate rebellion.
How has your view of the quarterback position evolved in your time here?
Probably, I think the game is changing, but to your point, I don't think that what you look for in a quarterback really has. You have to be able to do stuff with your feet. You have to be able to create a little bit. You have to at least be a threat in the run game. That has to be a part of what you do. I think it's important to do that. But I do think the more you look at the quarterbacks who are making it in the NFL and at the highest level of college football, they can move their feet. They can create. They can extend plays. Just thinking about the playoffs in college, thinking about the playoffs in the NFL. I mean, almost all those guys could do that.
You could hear the battle with himself in that one interview. He wants to take care of the football, take care of the football, take care of the football, but almost is asking for the rebellious quarterback to create and take the risk once things break down. Dangerous, fearless, willing to test the limits. The type that shows up when things break down, and that's the conflict. Most of the time, the controlled version wins, but every now and again, he asks for something else. At times, he wants the quarterback to ignore the rules that he sets up week in and week out, and that isn't conducive to how players are coached. Ryan Day during the week, less risk, no mistakes. And you can't ask for rebellion. It has to come naturally. You can't ask for rebellion inside a system built to prevent it. What Ryan Day is chasing is safety, a quarterback that translates, a quarterback built to survive Sundays. But college football rewards something entirely different. The ones who win here are the imperfect masterpieces, the ones that are creative. This is the lab versus art, mechanical versus creative. There's a reason some quarterbacks win championships in college and others don't. We use the phrase good college quarterback because traits that win championships in college aren't the same ones as the ones that win them in the NFL. In high pressure games, you're not just playing better competition, you're playing a different game entirely. And this is where the chase becomes costly. Because building NFL-ready quarterbacks brings validation, it earns respect, it earns credibility, it earns trust from the next level, but it also pulls your focus. Because college football doesn't reward safety the same way. It rewards margin, it rewards time, it rewards possessions, it rewards chaos. The NFL teaches you to survive your mistakes. College football demands you create them for the other team. That's why playoff games feel different. Not because they're tighter, but because they should be faster. Ohio State fans will tell you that a guy like Trinidad Chambliss will never play at a school like Ohio State. And you got to ask yourself why. By all accounts, Julian Sayin is likely a better quarterback than Trinidad Chambliss. But Trinidad Chambliss plays without the safety because safety slows you down, which brings us back to identity. Is this program built to protect outcomes or impose itself? Because you can't do both from the same place. Protection requires control. Imposition requires trust. And right now, Ryan Day is caught between them because he doesn't trust his team, because he doesn't trust himself, because there is an internal war. This is where delegation stops being about staff and starts being about identity. Because you can't delegate something you don't fully trust, and you don't fully trust something you're afraid to let define you. So we stay in the center. Decisions stay close, risk stays limited, and freedom gets delayed. Delegation isn't about giving up control, it's about accepting uncertainty. That's the hardest step. This isn't a talent problem, and this isn't a knowledge problem. It's a tension problem. Because the same instincts that built this program are the ones that now have to evolve. Instincts don't change on command, which is why the answer can never feel clean. There's another layer that I think is really fascinating with the whole Ryan Day conversation. Being hyper-aggressive has never actually burned Ryan Day. In fact, that's what built his reputation. Early on, aggression wasn't reckless, it was identity. Pressure through points. Speed is leverage. And there's a moment that still stands out above the rest. The 2020 playoff game against Clemson. That was Ryan Day's Mona Lisa. They played fast. They played with tempo. They weren't chasing the perfect play. They were stacking pressure. They didn't hesitate. They didn't negotiate with the moment. They imposed it. And the result was dominance. What makes that game even more telling is the context. Clemson, elite defensive line, just like Miami. And Clemson had beaten Ryan Day the year before. Same opponent profile, same stakes, same pressure, but a completely different response. That night, the offense didn't slow down to protect itself. They sped up to overwhelm it, and they sped up to put the pressure on Brent Venables. The aggression didn't create chaos, it controlled it. That game wasn't careless, it was liberated. And then something changed. The defense got better, the offense slowed. Not all at once, not dramatically, but deliberately. The logic made sense. If the defense can hold games, the offense doesn't have to chase points. If you don't have to chase, you can protect. If you can protect, you can control. But this is where correlation starts to masquerade itself as causation. The defense improving didn't require the offense to become safer. The best version was never one or the other. It was always both. An aggressive offense and a lockdown defense. That's what led to the 2024 National Championship. And we've seen that version again before for a full year. And that was 2019 Ohio State. What replaced it wasn't balance. balance, it was a trade-off. Aggression dialed down in exchange for security, speed exchanged for certainty. And that subtle shift is a costly one, because aggression doesn't just score points. It creates margin. And margin for error is what lets great defenses stay great without carrying the entire weight of an entire game. The danger isn't that Ryan Day moved away from the aggression. It's that he may believe the move itself is what caused the success. And those are two very different things. It's like this. You're trying to conduct a symphony while still holding every instrument yourself. Nothing's out of tune, but nothing's free. And in college football, freedom is usually what wins. All this to say, the version of Ryan Day I'm looking for is the one to get back to his roots. Ryan Day is the artist, and the best art of our lifetime requires risk. The safe thing for Ryan Day to do would be to roll with Julian, year 2 quarterback unchallenged. The risk would be an open competition with Tavian St. Clair. And the riskier thing would be to go get a transfer portal quarterback when you have 2 options in the room. And last time he took the risk, it paid off. The risk, the art, would be to take the restraints off, have a quarterback battle, and for Ryan Day to truly challenge himself while challenging these quarterbacks to be the gunslinger that this offense needs to move things forward. The roster itself is the floor setter. The quarterback is the ceiling raiser. The coaching staff is the floor raiser. The head coach is the ceiling raiser. Taking risks and getting back to what Ryan Day got hired for needs to be the top priority this offseason. Ryan Day coaches like the director that had an incredible feature film and still wants to pivot his career another way when the direction is there right in front of him.